Welcome back to Whitt Acres. I'm here at my greenhouse and I want to talk to you about hardening off plants. This is the time of year that everybody's thinking about getting their stuff out into the landscape because we're getting some warm weather, but you don't want to miss the important step of hardening off all your plants. So it is roughly 8:30 in the morning and the sun is still low. So this is when you want to get out all your plants and get them into the sun. What you're doing when you harden off a plant is getting it acclimated to the outside temperature. So the greenhouse is in here being a little protected, doesn't get as much wind even though I got the fan running. And it doesn't get as much sun intensity through the plastic panels. So you have to get them outside, introduce them to the sun and the wind and the temperature changes from day to night, and get them to strengthen up before they are able to take on a full day of sun and wind and rain and nightly drop in temperature. So I have multiple trays in this greenhouse that I need to harden off. I don't like bringing them all out for a half an hour and then taking them all back in. That's just too much work for me, so I want to find an easier way to do it. So over here on the east side of my property where the sun rises, you can see I have some brassicas and some squash and my onions out here. And you can see nice strong green leaves going on out here. What I'm doing here is putting all my plants on the east side of the property so they can get the first couple hours of sun, maybe 3 at the most. But it's a lower intensity sun being in the morning here, and this maple tree dapples the sun a little bit, so it's not a full intensity of sun. And then it hits the roof line, so once it hits the roof line, all my plants go back into the shade, and then they only have some overhead light. They won't get fried. This is what you're trying to avoid by hardening off your plants. If you just put a greenhouse plant straight out into the landscape, the sun will scald it, and that'll kill your leaf and eventually your plant if it's bad enough. So you want to harden these off so they are strong enough. They can build up sunscreen pretty much. They'll develop a stronger sunscreen for their leaf, and they'll get thicker, a lot more sturdier leaves once you get these things hardened off. You'll feel a big difference in the leaf compared to a greenhouse leaf after they get hardened off. It's working out. I can pull all my plants out in the morning and then I can leave them out all day, because once the sun goes over the house, they'll be in the shade and they'll just be getting some overhead light. So I put a board here for some more plants. Okay, so the plants I need to harden off right now are these tomatoes for the plant sale, or the ones I'm going to be just getting rid of, which is this tray, and this tray. It's actually 2 trays right there. So those 3 trays, and then I'll be taking that tray of peppers and brassicas, that tray of peppers, and this tray of brassicas and onions. Because the brassicas will be going in first with the onions, and then the tomatoes I'll be getting rid of before I'll be putting mine in the ground. So I want those to be hardened off before I sell any of them to anybody. That one doesn't look too healthy, but that's why we got to harden these off, because it was a little bit windy of a day yesterday, so these got a little bit beat up, but the hardy will survive. Let's get these trays outside so they can start hardening off in this morning sun. Okay, we got all the trays set out. So these three, stuffed this bunching onions and brassicas on this rack here. And then over here I have 3 trays of tomatoes, 2 trays of peppers, and a tray of brassicas. You can see that this tray is getting kind of large, and all the cups want to keep falling over in the tray. So I think next year I'm gonna have to do probably gonna have to do like square pots next year, I'm thinking, because these round cups are not a perfect fit for the 10 by 20 trays. Stay here, pup. Alright, well, that's how I harden things off. These are going to be getting about 20, about 2 more hours of sun, and then it'll turn dappled, and then it'll turn to shade. It is about 10 till 11 right now. You see the sun is behind a cloud, but directly behind the maple right now. And we are getting some dappled shade on the plants. Just the perfect amount of shade to keep them getting hardened off. Looks like I'm going to need another board out here to fit the rest of these plants, because I up-potted some of these herbs, and now I have a bunch more trays. So these are working out, getting the shade and the sun right behind that maple tree. So if you have a spot on the east side of your house, that might work for you. Hardening off your plants this spring would be the easier way, so they catch some shade before the hot afternoon sun starts hitting them, and you don't have to actually remember to take them back in after half an hour, or an hour the second day, or 2 hours the third day. I like to simplify everything I do in the garden, and this is one of them. And here we have the plants at about noon, 12 o'clock, completely in the shade. Sun is past the house, and it's a bit of an overcast day, but we get periods of bright sun. So now these are all in the shade, and they can go the rest of the day without any fear of them burning up. So this might work for you if you got an area on the east side of your house that you might be able to throw your plants in on a rack or on a board. Keep them safe. I keep mine up off the ground just so the dogs don't run into them. A puppy. This is the easy, lazy way to harden off your plants. Wanted to go ahead and take the time to check out these beautiful hyacinths. Check out the coloring on that one. White with pink stripes. Just beautiful. That one's falling over, but it's got another one coming right behind it. And a nice bright yellow one. Got some more on the far end. These ones are white and pink, and they are also right next to, surrounding, bordering, foreground for a hibiscus that should be growing here soon, and it'll be blooming midsummer, so keep a lookout for that. I'm still waiting on my lupin. Bought this last year, and I think it might be dead. I know they don't last forever, only a few years, but getting it at the garden center, I thought I might have a year left, but looks like that's a dead plant that I bought. That was a waste of $18. I planted phlox over here last year. Not sure if that's phlox or not. But right beside my lily is definitely a new sedum coming up. Sedum must have dropped some seed. Alright, so thanks for watching. This is just how I do the hardening off process. This is what I found to be the easiest. So if you think this is something that'll work for you, go ahead and try it. Don't blame me if it doesn't work, but I think it'll work. Alright, we'll see you on the next one.